What's up, everyone? It's Phoenix here, bringing you guys another podcast where today we are going to be discussing my ideal Red Dead Redemption 3. So I finished Red Dead Redemption 2 like a couple weeks ago. I meant to do this like right after I finished, but there was the whole moving back to campus, and then there was also just getting classes started. But I have free time to talk about all of this. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. So, I got this idea after completing the epilogue, which brings you back to John Marston. You're able to play as John Marston once again, and you sort of ride out on this finale. Right? And I've been thinking that the Red Dead Redemption series really does focus mainly on John Marston. His tale, his story, all of this is really about John Marston. Even though we had a different protagonist this season, or this time around, we had Arthur Morgan, it was still very much centered around John Marston. And we led into the eventual, handing over the torch to John Marston. And so I was thinking, well, how can we have that sort of same result while still following a Marston? Because I feel like Red Dead Redemption 3 could go one of two ways, okay? It could really go one of two ways. It could continue to follow John Marston, or sort of the Marston family. And if it did that, you would be following Jack Marston. He's all grown up, 10 years later sort of thing. We follow Jack Marston as he begins his new life in this country. By that time, it'll be like kind of the industrial era. So there's going to be a lot of factories. There's going to be a lot of competition. We're getting machines. We're getting advanced weapons. We're starting to move forward with technology. We've got assembly lines. We've got factories. Old towns. That sort of thing. We're kind of heading into that. I guess we'd be heading into that sort of like. Wait, what year does Red Dead Redemption 2 take place in? Or what year does Red Dead Redemption 1 take place in? Hang on. Setting. Let's take it. Setting. It takes place in 1911. 1911. Okay. That's a little bit later than I thought it was. 1899. Okay, so they're heading out west, right? But yeah, so 10 years later, we're starting to get into World War I. That's essentially where we're leading into. So in Red Dead Redemption 3, if you follow a 10 years later sort of thing, and we're following Jack Marston as the main protagonist. We're following Jack Marston. We're finding new weapons. We can be introduced to new weapons. We can be introduced to gas weapons, chemical warfare. We can also be introduced to more advanced rifles, more advanced guns. More sort of modernized for that time. Right, and so we're going to be following Jack Marston. But the difference between this game and all of the others, Red Dead Redemption 2 and Red Dead Redemption 1, is we're going to be able to fully control Jack, right? He's a very young protagonist. He can go anywhere he wants. And therefore, we can choose which direction he sort of goes in. So we can choose to keep him, honorable and good, and he then gets a good ending. But then we can also choose to make him ruthless and in some ways dishonorable, more of an outlaw, we can make him a gang leader or something like that, and therefore he kind of leads down this like sort of bad ending. And I think that's what needs to happen is that so Red Dead Redemption 3 I believe should be the last game. I do believe that Red Dead Redemption should end in a trio. Well, technically a four-parter, but no one talks about Red Dead Revolver. But we're going to end with Red Dead Redemption 3, and we'll be following Jack's story, right? And again, we're going to be seeing all these new weapons, we're going to be seeing new gangs, we're going to be seeing new cities being formed. I believe they're like in California. Let's see, West Elizabeth. Oh, so they're like in New Mexico, I think. They're like at the border of Mexico, so they're like New Mexico, Arizona area. So we could actually have, I guess that is sort of like that area, but we could actually have Jack move to a different section, maybe towards like Kansas or towards like Nevada or like Oregon. So it's more like up north, but so that we get new settings, right? We get new settings. We can sort of bring it towards like the city so that we're going to be seeing like a different setting, but it's still going to have that like cowboy, Midwest feeling to it, Southwest feeling or whatever. I guess in this case it would be Northwest. We could have it in that like Washington, Oregon, Nevada like area. We could have that whole like area. You could be introduced to new towns, new settings, new gangs. We could have a storyline where you can basically choose the way you want to go. You can choose to be good and honorable and maybe get yourself to be, like a sheriff or at least a deputy, maybe a deputy. Or you can choose to go the bad route and be sort of like, evil, like an outlaw. You can go full on outlaw, and there's like different ways you can go. Like I feel like Red Dead Redemption is kind of missing that, because for the most part we've been playing honorable men, right? John Marston was a very honorable man, and while Arthur Morgan gave you more freedom, you still ended up being a sort of good person. But it'd be interesting to play someone who can be either, go either direction. You can choose to make him good, or you can choose to make him bad, like Dutch bad, and you can go that separate way. I think Red Dead Redemption is missing that freedom to decide what you want your character to be. Which is also bringing me to my second idea, which is not following Jack Marston, but following a brand new character. Very much like the, Assassin's Creed Origins, and sort of like you're going to be able to choose between a female character or a male character. And like the female character is going to be very much like Sadie, in the sense that she is very like, I guess the best word for it would be like tomboy. She's very active. She's very much like a cowgirl. And we're actually going to be seeing a cowgirl, like a legit cowgirl, and you're going to be able to do all that. And you're going to be able to go in your separate directions, whether it's all good or all bad. You can be a bounty hunter, you can be an outlaw, you can be a gang leader, you can be, or like a gang member at least. And you can join the gangs. I think having that like faction sort of feeling where you can join, you can join the law force, or you can join the bad people. And you can also choose to be a male character, and the male character is going to also be like that cowboy and be able to choose whether or not to go into like law enforcement or or be an outlaw. And you can, depending on what you choose, and I think having the option to choose your storyline and to be able to choose what you want to do with the character is going to be absolutely important, to the point where it's going to affect the outcome of the game. It's going to affect your missions. It's going to affect your ending. It's going to affect your relationships with different characters. It's going to push to be more open world, to be more like a role-playing game rather than a just straight up, story game. And I think this will also make Red Dead Redemption 3 highly replayable because you will have these different choices. And I do think that while I do appreciate the Red Dead Redemption style, I do think like having that freedom and also updating the system so it's like more like integrated, I guess, more immersive is going to highly improve the quality of the game, improve the style, bring a sort of a fresh style to a very familiar setting. It's going to allow you to really control your world to the point where you can make it your own, right? It's going to be very not you don't make your own character, but there's going to be like a female setting, like a female character, and then a male character. And not only that, but both of them should be single, which opens the door for romance. You're going to be meeting new people all around the town, all around the city. And there's going to be several different options of what you want to do. If you want to play a gay man, there's going to be male love interests that are specifically, that specifically swing that way. And so you can go for those characters. There's also, going to be more, straight men as well. So that you'll be able to, they're not going to really change their sexuality based on you, but there are going to be characters that are available for that, for if you want to do that. And then for that same reason, there's going to be female characters. For the female, there's going to be, lesbian characters as well as straight characters that you can choose. If you become like a female character, and you go in, wanting to have that female and female relationship, there's going to be specific characters that allow you to do that. And then, for example, if you do a male, there's going to be specific females that are available for, that character. Because it's going to be more realistic that way. And yeah, some people might judge you for your decisions. Some people might, sort of question that, is this right, sort of thing. And they're going to have that message in there, not because it's trying to be political or anything, but simply because it's realistic for that time. No one's ever heard, at that time, having, homosexual characters wasn't really that, homosexual people in general wasn't really all that common, especially since it was very much, there's always been those, I guess, superstitions about, those type of people. And so having that embedded in this culture, in this game, would make it more realistic. Again, not to be political or religious or anything like that, but just to be realistic. Tell it how it is. If you choose these options, and you can choose these options, then that's going to affect the way that people see you, the way that people feel about you, and you can go for, the heterosexual decisions, and that's going to probably make your life a little bit easier. But also, you're still going to be judged by other actions. Depending on what you choose in the game, it's going to affect your relationships. And I think that's where Red Dead Redemption 3 needs to be headed. We need new settings. We need new weapons. We need new choices. Push those choices. Like, we got a little bit more freedom with Arthur Morgan, but push that even more. That can be pushed even more to the point where you have your own game. Like, someone's game is going to be different from yours. And that's really what's going to make Red Dead Redemption 3 stand out above all of them, and also be replayable and really push that limit, where it's still going to have the sort of directional, storytelling, where it's kind of one story. You're going to have your main story, and you're also going to have your side missions, and those are going to kind of move it along. But you're also going to be able to have more freedom, even more freedom than before. Red Dead Redemption 1 was very limited. It would kind of put you in this one path, right? And you kept following that path until the end. And you could choose to go off that, but there wasn't really that many side missions. And so, you're essentially just free roaming the world, and that's fine. But then Red Dead Redemption 2 gave you a little more freedom. It gave you choices to make. You could choose to do a mission, or you could choose not to do a mission, and that would affect how people thought about you, your honor, and all of that. Well, now we need to push that even further to the point where you can choose to be good or bad, but you can also choose what you want to do in the game. There's going to be certain quests that lead you down the main path and push the timeline, but essentially it's going to be up to you whether you live or die. And you won't know which one you will get until you finish the game, because it's going to be different each time. Just because you play a bad character doesn't mean you die. In fact, in many ways it should be almost random. Like, the scenario when you live or die should be random. It shouldn't be based on your morals, but more based on circumstances. Like, if you choose to do these quests, then you're going to have a better chance of living than if you do other things. But it's not going to, your moral is not going to affect whether you live or die. Because that's going to kind of dissuade people from being evil if they know they're going to die at the end. If they don't know whether they're going to live or die, and it's random each time, then that's going to affect the way that people play. It doesn't have to be, completely random. It can be based on sort of decisions that you make. But it can have that sort of storyline, I guess. And I think that's the way that Red Dead Redemption 3 should really be done. Again, you get that freedom, you get that choice between whether you want to be a female or a male, or whether you want to be gay or straight, or you want to be more religious or non-religious, or you want to, push, if you're female, maybe you want to push for, women's suffrage, or if you're male, maybe you want to push for, World War, and, even have the potential of being drafted. I don't want it to turn into a Call of Duty game, because it's not a Call of Duty game, but you can sort of have that, like, in the background, sort of, having this idea of, like, and then you can also defy that. You can choose to not do any of that. You can choose, I guess, how you want to affect your game, right? And the game around you is going to change based on what you choose. And so that's what I think that what Red Dead Redemption 3 should be like. And yes, the system should be updated to the point where it's even better than the last, right? I think we should still choose to have auto aim, and Deadeye is a very good system, but there are ways that can still be improved. Maybe add different mechanics, add different things that make it even more realistic than before. And maybe you can even get a job. Maybe you could choose to work at the general store, or you could choose to work as a bounty hunter, or you can choose to work as a law enforcement. You can do all these different things, but there still should be motion. You should feel like time going by, and maybe, just maybe, that quests shouldn't be based on whether or not you do them, right? Maybe it should be based on time. After a certain amount of in-game days, this is no longer going to be available, and it's going to push forward. Although that might discourage people from doing much and just getting straight to the point. There are times where certain quests will only be available during certain times of the day, and we can kind of still have that. But maybe we should also have time-sensitive quests. Like, it doesn't make sense if, you get a quest, and say like day 1, and then like 10, a month goes by, and that quest is still available. That doesn't really make sense, because why is that person waiting there for a whole month, just waiting for you to get to it? And like, that would be kind of weird. I think at some point, that person should say, like, okay, you don't want to help me, I'm just gonna move on, or something like that. Now, obviously, the more important quests, like the main quests, that's going to give you a little bit more freedom of what you want to do. And it's not going to be as time constrained. So that's sort of my idea of a Red Dead Redemption 3 game. Let me know down in the comments, what do you guys think? Do you think that, do you think you should have more choices in, the next game, even more choices? What do you want to see in Red Dead Redemption 3? Would you want to see a new protagonist, or would you want to see Jack Marston as an adult, so like 10 years later sort of thing, and being able to control him? Which one would you rather prefer? Comment down below, let me know. Leave a like in this video if you guys enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe for more content. And peace out, guys. It's been a blast.